ఇది ఇండియాస్ బెస్ట్ ఫర్టిలిటీ హాస్పిటల్.
49 అంటే సంతానం, 49 అంటే సంతోషం. 49
ఆంధ్రప్రదేశ్, తెలంగాణ.
You have to contribute more generously. You have to give back more generously. You know, after COVID, after the pandemic, I think many of us have realized that life is short and our shelf lives are even shorter. So the more you give, the more good karma that you build. So it's good for your children, it's good for your families, it's good for all of you to actually give back more and to ensure that, your name remains right there on the podium or on the slate out there back home in your schools. The second request I have of you, of course, we have the biggies. We have the Amazon, Amazons, Googles, Apples, Facebooks, Microns, Novartises, I can go on. There's a huge list, long list. All of them are investing significantly in Telangana. They're continuing to push, our bar in terms of, what all India can produce, India can deliver for the world. They continue to, in fact, make us proud by their investments in Telangana and in India. While all this is good, all the big boys coming into Telangana is a good story. It makes for a good, headline. Qualcomm, in fact, yesterday has announced that now their second largest center will be Telangana. They are investing a big amount in Telangana and they're inaugurating their facility sometime later this year. Now that list goes on. That story can go on. Of course, that momentum has to continue to ensure that we continue to keep pace with the growth. But those of you who are actually in the IT space, those of you who are wanting to do something more entrepreneurial, those of you who have been, thinking, especially after the pandemic, that, it does not really matter where you work from. I think pandemic has really shown as a mirror. It has proved that it doesn't matter whether you work from home or whether you work from your garage, or whether you work from your bathroom. Nobody cares as long as you deliver. That's how it has been. That is exactly what pandemic has shown all of us across the world. In fact, there is a company in India called Zoho. I'm sure many of you have heard of it. This gentleman has actually shown that software development and coding also can happen, in a very dispersed, in a very decentralized mode. In fact, from rural villages across the state of Tamil Nadu, Sridhar Vembu, I think his name is, he's been able to show that Zoho can actually start, kind of collating all the code, collating all the programming efforts, and ensure that the service levels are kept up. So my humble request to all of you, those of you who are especially, running IT consultancy firms, product firms, and are having startup ideas, Hyderabad and Telangana are great places to do business in. But when I say Hyderabad, I just don't mean Gachibowli or Kondapur or Madhapur. Because for most of you, in fact, you land in Shamshabad, you go to Gachibowli, enjoy working there, go to a nice pub or something there, and then go back home, and that's what you believe is Hyderabad. No. Hyderabad has more to offer. We have brilliant new locations like Uppal, LB Nagar, Kandlakoya, Kompalli, the northern part of Hyderabad, the central Hyderabad, where the cost of living is even lower compared to the other parts of Hyderabad. So therefore, my humble request to you is, because, we cannot end up like Bangalore. We cannot afford to end up like Bangalore. 25 years ago, I used to love going to Bangalore because it was one of my favorite cities, the cosmopolitan nature of it, the social life, and the gardens, the temperature being low. In fact, there was a time in Bangalore where you didn't have to turn on a fan. You could be fine. But now, if you go to Bangalore today, in fact, I met somebody who told me that he was driving from Bangalore to Hyderabad, which is about 600 kilometers. I don't know in miles. You guys only talk in miles. But 600 kilometers is what it is. He told me that the amount of time it takes for him to get from Hyderabad city to Bangalore airport, and from Bangalore airport into his place, the other side of the city, I'm presuming, is exactly the same. So it takes him 5 hours to get to Bangalore airport in Yelahanka. From there again, to get to his place, it takes him another few hours. So he was lamenting, that, Bangalore has grown despite the government, etc., etc. I'm not here to trash the BJP government in Karnataka. All I'm saying is, there is a lot of inertia in Bangalore. A lot of people continue to invest in Bangalore because of inertia. Because you're used to being there, because you're used to living there, you're used to kind of thinking only Bangalore. But let me tell you, it's a toss-up between inertia and dynamism. Inertia in Bangalore, dynamism in Hyderabad. You have to make up your choice. You have to actually look at this with your eyes open. Because I believe very firmly, Hyderabad today offers the best value proposition in the entire country. It offers you the biggest bang for the buck. Our quality of infrastructure is twice better when compared to Bangalore. But it comes at half the cost. Our cost of living is lower compared to Bangalore, at least I think I would say by 20-30%. Likewise, the ease of doing business is much better. Government being an enabler is another huge plus. And more importantly, let me remind you all, 40% of Bangalore's workforce is from Telugu states. 40% of the people that work in the IT space in Bangalore are actually Telugu. So given an opportunity, they would run back to Hyderabad, they would run back to Vizag maybe, and they'd be very, very content in working in their hometown or home state. So my humble request to all of you, kindly start looking at the newer opportunities in other parts of Hyderabad, and more importantly, Government of Telangana, when I said inclusive growth, what did I mean? Even in information technology, we did not stop at Hyderabad. We have created 5 plug-and-play facilities already. Warangal, Khammam, Karimnagar, Nizamabad and Mahbubnagar will be inaugurated this year. And we have gentlemen like Raju Reddy. Where is he? Raju Anna has actually done a beautiful job with what is called as Kakatiya Sandbox in Nizamabad, creating a brilliant, brilliant avenue. Why don't you just say hello? Maybe just a wave. Please, he deserves a big round of applause. And in the last 3 or 4 days, and particularly in the last few months, some really, really interesting entrepreneurs have come forward. They told me, I'll just give you a couple of examples here of people who are around me. Where is Srini Surukanti? Now this guy, his name is Srini Surukanti. He moved back from Texas back to India. He comes to me one day and he says, you are aware of NTT Data? Is the question he asked me. I said, yes, of course. Who doesn't know? He said, they want to open a center in Adilabad. I was in disbelief. I said, why would they do it? He said, no, I'll introduce you to the CEO. So this gentleman called Sanjeev Deshpande, I think it is. Sanjeev Deshpande comes to see me. He says, I want to open a center in Adilabad and I'm committed to it. I was surprised. I was obviously pleasantly surprised. I said, fine, let's make it happen. Then I introduce him to the local MLA. Both of them go take a tour of the place. And they come back in a week saying, we've already made placement offers to 75 people and we'll be 120 by the next week. We want you to come and inaugurate the new facility. We have rented a building, which is a government building, and it's up and running. So it's a brilliant, brilliant story in terms of what appetite these tier 2 and tier 3 towns have. Not just this one example. Let me call on Vamsi. Where is Vamsi? Vamsi is from Seattle. In fact, he runs a company called, there are some Seattle folks. He runs a company called Quadrant Resources. Vamsi is from Warangal, Narsampet. He decided, while he's growing and he continues to grow here in Seattle, he wanted to set up a large center in Warangal. In Warangal, we already have a few nice names. There is the Tech Mahindra Center, there is Scient, Genpact is now growing there, Mindtree is growing there, and then we already have a few other local companies. When Vamsi approached us, he said, I need a piece of land so I can build my own campus. We were surprised. We said, why don't you actually go and rent something? He said, no, as part of my growth plan, I want to actually invest something rock solid. I want to grow my business. I want to ensure that the center expands. So he's taken up a land there. Now he's already constructing. And he was narrating a beautiful story to me. His father, who's a 75-year-old gentleman, what's his name? Muralidhar Reddy Garu. He called him. He said, Dad, you haven't seen me in 2 years. You haven't seen the kids in 2 years. So why don't you come over to Seattle? You can spend some time with us in the summer. You know what his father says? He says, I am supervising the construction of your office. As soon as it is completed, I'm going to board on a flight and I'm actually going to come see you in Seattle. Now that's commitment. That's passion. That's, I think something that we all need to take a leaf out of. Let me also point out to a few other guys. Mahesh Bigala here. He's an entrepreneur. He used to live in New Jersey. He moved back to India now. I don't know where he lives anymore because sometimes he's seen here, sometimes he's seen there. But he is in fact now working very aggressively with some Nizamabad NRIs to build up, we are building up the plug and play facility there. He's trying very hard along with his brother, the local MLA there, Ganesh, to ensure that Nizamabad center also takes off in a big way. Likewise, we had a gentleman today, I don't know where he is, Venkat Kanumuri. Venkat Kanumuri, please say hi, sir. Venkat comes to me today and he says, sir, nenu Jagdish Reddy garu Suryapeta Minister garu tonu matladanu. I want to launch a center in Suryapet. I said, why would you want to do it in Suryapet? He says, sir, some of my employees are from Vijayawada, some of them are from Nalgonda, some of them are from Khammam. So I'm actually happy launching a center there because the attrition will be lower, their content levels are higher, so I'm doing it. So he's doing a nice center with about, how many people, sir? 50 to 150 people in Suryapet. So I can go on. I mean, I have another 10 examples of various entities. Is Ravi here? I don't know. Ravi, the gentleman who's also launching operations in Warangal. He's also doing a 1500 center in Warangal. I can go on. The list is huge. We have set a goal for ourselves. We have set a goal for ourselves and we said IT should not be confined to Hyderabad alone. We should take it to tier 2, tier 3 towns and we should make it happen. In our rural tech policy, we have set a target of 50,000 jobs in the tier 2, tier 3 towns in the next 5 years. And I think it's eminently doable with all of your support, with all of your guidance and blessing. అందరికీ ఏదో చేయాలి, ఏదో నేను నా సొంత ప్రాంతానికి ఏదైనా చేయాలి, నా జిల్లాకి, నా పట్టణానికి, నా ఊరికి ఏదైనా చేయాలని ఆతృత ఉంటుంది. అందులో ముఖ్యంగా వేల మైళ్ళ దూరంలో ఉన్నప్పుడు, వేల మైళ్ళ దూరంలో ఇంటి నుంచి దూరంలో ఉన్నప్పుడు ఇంకా ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది. ఎందుకంటే నేను కూడా మీ రోజుల్లో ఉన్నవాడిని. నేను కూడా ఒక 6.5-7 ఏళ్ల పాటు ఇక్కడే ఉన్నవాడిని. కాబట్టి మీ ఆరాటం నాకు తెలుసు. మీరు ఆ greatandracomలో లేకపోతే పేపర్లలో చూసే అప్డేట్లు నాకు తెలుసు. అవన్నీ మేము కూడా చేసిన వాళ్ళమే. కాబట్టి అందులో వచ్చినాయని నిజం నమ్మకండి, అది వేరే విషయం అనుకో. కాకపోతే నా రిక్వెస్ట్ ఏమంటే, వెన్ యూ వాంట్ గివ్ బ్యాక్, ఐ థింక్ డూ సంథింగ్ మీనింగ్ఫుల్. అంటే గుళ్ళు కట్టించే వాళ్ళు గుళ్ళు కట్టించండి, తప్పలేదు. బడులు కట్టించే వాళ్ళు బడులు కట్టించండి. లైబ్రరీస్కి డొనేట్ చేయాలనుకునే వాళ్ళు లైబ్రరీకి డొనేట్ చేయండి. ఒకవేళ నా కంపెనీ పెట్టి నేను 10 మందికి ఉద్యోగాలు ఇస్తాను అనుకునే వాళ్ళు ఆ పని చేయండి. తద్వారా మీరు చేసే ఈ సేవా కార్యక్రమాల ద్వారా మీకు వచ్చే తృప్తి, మీకు వచ్చే దానివల్ల వచ్చే కృతజ్ఞత ఏదైతే ఉంటుందో ఒక స్థానికుల నుంచి, దానికి మించిన ఫీలింగ్ ఇంకోటి ఉండదు. 2-3 programs. One is a program called Arogya Lakshmi, which provides nutritious food to the mother and the child till the child actually becomes an infant and he is able to walk on his own feet. Now the second thing we do, which I think is more important, is to make the child well equipped in terms of being able to compete, like how confidently a 12-year-old stood up in Milpitas and asked me a question in front of hundreds of people. We want all of our Telangana children also to be empowered in a similar way. So therefore we have launched 973 residential schools in Telangana, where more than 5 lakh kids, which is 500,000 plus kids actually go to school there in a residential format. We spend nearly 1,20,000 rupees on each and every child. We take care of everything, their boarding expenses, their schools, their books, their bags, the blankets, the food, everything is taken care of. Now we have 973 such schools. We also provide great deal of assistance in the form of fees reimbursement to the kids who want to graduate and go pursue higher studies. And if any of the bright young kid wants to come to the United States or some other country, to pursue higher education, we also offer scholarships to them to the tune of nearly 20 lakh rupees. I don't think any other state in India does that. So we do a bunch of things for children to make them globally rock solid citizens. Thank you, beta. Guru Nanak, right?